Make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
Hey.
Now we're on the air.
Now we are.
Look at that. The magic of technology.
A
Boom.
very pleasant good afternoon and welcome into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show.
Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Go Birds.
Lots to get into from this past weekend, but let's start with what was one of the more impressive victories that Penn State has had in quite a while, certainly as impressive as anything they've done in the last 3 seasons for sure. And it's one of those combinations because I had a couple people of my friends. It's like, man, I just think everybody in the SEC is licking their chops to get a shot at Auburn. And listen, I do think, in fairness, it is a combination. I do think Penn State is good. How good I want to see. We'll find out in Ann Arbor in a month. Sure. A much better indication of how good. I think they're good.
Yep.
Whether or not they're, Big Ten contending good, I think they could be, but we're going to find out.
Hey, Head, by the way.
What we know is that Auburn is not SEC contending good this season.
I got to remind you of something very, very important.
Yes, sir.
You understand you've only got 1 week left, right?
1 week. Oh, of making predictions?
Yes. So
Fair.
I was filling in for you. It was over the summer. We
were
talking about Penn State this season. I said, and we were talking about the schedule for Penn State, the way it fills out. And I got Ironhead to promise live here on the airwaves of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show that if Penn State gets to 4-0, he will pick against us every week for the remainder of the season.
Oh,
because take
that to the bank right there.
Yeah, we absolutely we can't at that point we can't risk the juju.
You absolutely cannot.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Or the Smith-Schuster, as we once knew the juju in Pittsburgh. Yes.
Yeah, and as they don't know in Kansas City or wherever the hell he is now. So Head, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you do get to predict the Central Michigan win this week. And then after that, no more.
No,
so enjoy it.
I hear you, and I think that's
do your duty.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Listen, I do think a couple of things out of that game, and we were talking last week that you really wanted to see how both lines would fare. I do think, as good as the defensive line looked, and I do think it's good, and I think there were a lot of positives, obviously, to take away from it. I also, for as problematic as Penn State's offensive line has been, that Auburn offensive line is just an absolute mess right now. And I'm not sure, we were talking a little bit, Matt Canada's under fire in Pittsburgh. There is a real limit. And I don't know that fans sometimes appreciate how limited you are in what you can do if you don't have an offensive line that can at least hold even at the line of scrimmage. You can be the greatest innovative play caller in the history of the world. And if your guys can't block the other guys, your plays don't work 100% of the time. It doesn't matter what you call. You have to be able to hold the line of scrimmage, give your quarterback a little time, give your running back some holes. If you don't have that, again, it doesn't matter how good your skill guys are. It doesn't matter how great the game plan is. It will not work.
Good example, 1A is the defending AFC conference champions, Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Joe Burrow out there coming off of an appendix injury and then his, the surgery after the season and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he is just getting absolutely destroyed. Like 14 or 15 sacks. What's he on? He's on like Ron Jaworski. He's on Jaworski type era
car numbers.
Here is the question. Looking ahead, and I know we got to get through this season, but do you think next year that Micah Parsons will recover from the sophomore slump that he's off to here in the second year?
I think so, probably.
I mean, I think he has that ability that he can bounce back next year from the inevitable sophomore slump that these guys go through.
He caught a lot of crap for that Fournette hit, and rightfully so. But, I mean, that was a 1,000,000% legal hit in the way the football is. But I have to go back to, like,
Fournette even said
if that happened to an offensive player, it would be a penalty. There's no doubt about it. It's like, I mean, I'm starting to begin to actually feel bad for these defensive players in the NFL with all these different rules that they can't hit or this and that, but they can just get absolutely
blasted,
just ridiculously. So, but Mike is just, Jesus God, he's just unbelievable right now. Not right now. I mean, this is what they projected him to be. I remember Coach Franklin and Terry Smith telling me, like, hey, this kid is unbelievable. And it was just like, you look at him, I mean, he's making everything happen. And I personally, what Ryan Clark on ESPN said last year, it's the best thing I ever heard somebody say about somebody, and that is if they put him at defensive end, he'd lead the league in sacks. If they left him at middle linebacker for every play, he would lead the league in tackles. He is that good of a player. He's that generational type of player. So, and then he's playing in the right place. I mean, the Cowboys have how many 4 o'clock and primetime games, and he's going to do very, very well down there. Yeah. I hope he stays healthy, stays out of trouble down there. Because somebody asked me that because they had heard that he had been in trouble in high school and that. But I mean, you never heard anything bad about him up here. I don't remember. And you hear rumors of guys,
although I don't know. I mean,
but you hear rumors of guys just being jerk-offs and stuff like that. So I don't ever really remember. I mean, he was young and
it clicks different times for different people, right? Like, I mean.
Isn't the whole idea behind what we're doing here at Penn State with college football is that you transformed by the experience? You come out differently
the hope
than
for
you
sure.
Came in?
Yep, that's for sure the hope. And I think that's,
That is you've heard that theory, right? About Texas football, not the University of Texas, but the state of Texas football.
Okay.
How guys are so well polished in high school and so well coached at this point.
Yeah.
That there really is not much that room to grow. I mean, they've already peaked a little bit, and that's crazy to think about because you get guys like on our team, they need a year to get in there and get the confidence up and get their playing.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys from the state of Texas are somewhat already capped out, and it's crazy to think about, but it's somewhat true.
But so I think about Nick Caduti, the film analyst for the Bloggy. We had him on the podcast, and he was telling us about his backstory. And he was coaching in college. I think it was like Division II. And his wife told him, hey, like, you got to make a career change. You got to start making some more money. So he became an assistant high school football coach in Texas.
Yeah.
So he left that to become I mean, I played in Canada with a guy. I don't remember his name. But he left camp. He said, I got a job to be an OC at one of them Texas high schools. He's like, he's gone. He's $120,000. He goes, more than I make here. I was like, hey, man, good luck. Good luck to you. My God.
There was a young man, and I use the term loosely, Ironhead, on the field on Saturday, wearing number 14, who could tell you all about how life is different when your offensive line can't block and when the ground game isn't going, and all of a sudden,
how about it?
Sean Clifford's got both of those things and looking pretty damn good.
Still had that one boneheaded play where get the hell down, man, because he got popped.
Yep.
And I You know what I thought Saturday was going to be. You know, I said the parallels to the Iowa game from last year. There was just there was a difference of Game 5 and Game 3. We had a real good win on the road. We're going out there to play a tough game on the road, i.e., going to Iowa last year. This year we go down to Auburn, and I'm sitting there. I watched that play, and I said, "Holy God, here it goes again! This is the exact same thing happening again." And if all things considered, I have one complaint about James Franklin on Saturday, and whoever called the quarterback sneak after he just got his head knocked off. I mean, let's think about this a little bit.
Yeah,
the guy's already ringing. Why are we trying to run a quarterback sneak and getting another shot on him? But obviously, it all worked out.
Yeah, I also, and obviously, this is not. I and just about the entirety of Nittany Nation second guess the fourth and short call, but to me that's another one of those situations where, and again, obviously it all worked out, so you're now it looks like you're nitpicking, but it's a risk reward thing, and when your defense is playing as well as Penn State's has been, and you have the trust in it, and we were talking about it, like, it's going to be hard for Auburn if you can keep the big plays to a minimum. It's hard to drive 80-plus yards. Punt the ball and get them inside their 10. The way that punting game, again, to me, it was a risk-reward thing, and I just don't think the risk was worth the reward. Even if you make it there, you're not guaranteed getting any points off of that drive. Like, it obviously helps momentum. I mean, I understand to some degree the thinking of going for it. I just think you got to have a cooler head that prevails there in charge, saying, listen, we have a great punter, we have a good defense, let's get them down there and play the field position game. And again, it worked out at the end of the day.
That could have it could have put a defense in a real predicament.
Well, and very unnecessarily is my thing. And even if they had made, I made a little note to myself. I'm like, before they ran the play, I'm like, even if they make this, I think this is the wrong decision, and that's why
I'm with you.
The risk reward thing.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
But that being said, this defense continues to create turnovers. This offense continues to take care of the football. That alone is going to give you a chance in most games, right? And now you're seeing a lot of the other things start to develop. That offensive line is starting to look like it could be a good offensive line. The defensive line is deep, and you're seeing a lot of guys. You're seeing some different playmakers emerge here on that defensive side of the football, which is encouraging as you look down the road here. And the other thing I like with the personnel too, because we talked a little bit about that too, is I was interested in how they were going to scheme Auburn. And with the personnel they have, I do like their ability to game plan for a specific opponent each week and be able to match up with any type of, if it's a great passing attack like Purdue has, I think Penn State's fine. I think if it's a good, I don't know that I'd call Auburn a great running attack. I think the running backs are good. That offensive line is subpar. I'll politely put it that way. But, I think, against a Michigan, I think Penn State can scheme and with the personnel they have, do some different things to disrupt, really good running games. And so I like the personnel they have defensively. I like, obviously, the coaches that they have there on that side of the ball. I think they are starting to develop an actual identity on offense, which they did not have either of the last two seasons. And I think it's the identity that most coaches dream of having, which is a balanced attack, right? Like you don't know that's what is coming on those first down plays in particular.
That right now, the days of your one-trick pony offense are way over. The triple option Nebraska teams from the 90s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then you go into Alabama, to Auburn, excuse me, and, they were a one-trick pony because it was like, okay, you got to make him pass. And, God forbid, thank God we made him pass because they were absolutely horrendous. But stopping that run and having them put him in that predicament, it was unbelievable. now, with that being said, that's the strong point of our game right now and we are sitting there, people, I always go back to, I'm not going to compare them to our offense, but, I always used to say, why were you guys so good? I was like, okay, well, a defensive coordinator has to make a decision this week. Central Michigan defensive coordinator is going to say, okay, we're going to have these freshman kids running all over us, or we're going to put eight in the box, and then Clifford's going to, Kerry Collins and Kijana Carter. If you try to stop the run, they're going to pass all over you. Try to stop the pass, they're going to run all over you. So being that balance is a unbelievably great thing right now. And the coaching thing is going well, too. Again, the third week in a row, the special teams were just outstanding. Just fantastic.
Except for the kickoffs.
Did you see our boy down there? He made a tackle.
I did.
Yes,
did.
I was cheering in between my SEC chants in the bar here, laughing every time one of our guys broke away for another 40-yard run.
It just means more.
It just means more. That SEC speak, by the way, the SEC network releasing those shorts. Did you see that Monday morning?
I did.
Absolutely fantastic. To that be recorded and already released on Monday morning when they accused Penn State of murder.
The murder, yeah.
Oh, it was freaking hilarious. Yeah. Really, 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 really well done. So,
am I late to how long is the Eli Manning thing? Because I didn't see it until Saturday night. It was the first time I saw that. I'm assuming that's been out a while.
Saturday.
Huh?
The walk-on thing or the TV show?
Yeah, I didn't see it till after Saturday.
I didn't see it till yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
So it hasn't been out. I didn't know if it was something I just missed on or maybe it was.
Did you watch the whole 22-minute version?
No, I still haven't seen
really
that.
Good.
And
in the end, him and Peyton have a company, Omaha, and it's literally at the end of the YouTube video. It's because it says Omaha, and you hear Peyton and Eli going Omaha, like they do when they're playing football. They're genius. They're very, very smart. Those two guys, and that thing that Eli did was absolutely freaking hilarious. And
it was
watching our coaches being like, "Who the hell is this guy? Who is this guy?" But what he was saying,
if you don't know, just real quick. So Chad Powers was a walk-on quarterback, and it was Eli in disguise. And there's I've only seen like 3 of the clips.
His humor is so good. He's like.
Yeah, he's
got a little Matthew McConaughey going on.
And I think Franklin knew what was going on, but I don't think anybody else did, right? Like,
no.
At least that's the way it was presented.
Danny O'Brien was sitting there telling Franklin, I like this kid. He's telling him secretly, he's like, I like this kid.
It's a nice ball.
This kid's got something. Now, I want to know, is Chaz Powers related to Kenny Powers? Are they like this?
They'd have to be.
Cousins or something like
there's
that?
got to be something.
When he was talking to Danny O'Brien, and he was saying, I was homeschooled by my mother. And he goes, well, was it tough? And he goes, no, she's not that smart, but she's a really good coach.
Yeah.
And he goes, she was my coach in high school and all that. So, oh, man, it was, again, we're not doing it any kind of justice. It's really freaking good.
It is. It's terrific.
That was awesome. The SEC short was fantastic.
Short on Penn State committing murder on Auburn. And
I mentioned this on the TV show last night. The stories you're seeing from Penn State fans and even Auburn fans about the love that happened in the parking lots between everybody, it was really, really cool to see. But I said this again last night. I said, it's great when you're doing a 1-on-1. 15 years ago, I liked Iowa fans. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then they came up here when we were 1 or 2 in the country in the rain and blocked a punt and ended our season a couple different times in the last 10, 15 years. So there ain't there's not too much love for Iowa right now. But you know what I mean? And once the rivalry comes around, you start playing more. If we were to play Auburn, okay, let's go back. You ask an Auburn fan, does Alabama fans, do you treat them just as well as they do Penn State? And the answer is absolutely not. No way in hell.
No, there is hate. It's
so,
hatred.
Yes,
yeah.
And that's where. Yeah. It's all love games and this and that. Oh, it's just great experience and this and that. But it's just like us going to Columbus and people come to Columbus here. We've ruined their season a few times. They've ruined our season all the time. So there is a lot of hate and angst. And Michigan's Michigan, so whatever. Hate.
Yeah, I will say, as far as the conferences are concerned, fans and media like to overreact. It's just kind of what we do, and so I get it as far as it goes. Listen, Alabama and Georgia are really, really good.
Not bad.
The rest of that conference, there are a lot of good teams, But
I was saying this to you last
and
week.
it's the same as the Big Ten, right? I mean, Ohio State is outstanding. It's looking like Michigan is really good, and I think Penn State might be really good. And then you have a bunch of, again, good teams. I mean, not a lot of talent spread throughout the conference, but I don't think the SEC top to bottom is this, miles and miles above anybody else, and certainly not miles and miles above the Big Ten. The one team that I will say that is, I think, getting the short shrift right now is Minnesota nationally. When you look at the results, and again, I get it, they have not played exactly stellar competition, but that was a good team last year, has a lot of guys back from that team last year, and they're doing what you would expect and then some against inferior competition, and they're getting no Penn State at least is, and again, Purdue and Auburn are at least bigger names than anything as Auburn's faced through the first 3 weeks. And you had two of those wins on the road for Penn State. Yeah. So, I mean, I get Penn State moving up to 14 or whatever it is now in the AP poll, but you'd think Minnesota at least would be in there at this point, right? Like,
well, Butch made the point on Twitter today. How in the hell are there 10 teams ahead of Penn State with losses?
Well, that was only in
because you said they slapped Auburn in the back.
Yeah, so
backhand.
One thing I love and hate about the 24/7 news cycle of college football is like you got to enjoy it for what it is, which is something to fill the days between games. You can't get too psyched up about it. You know. Someone at CBS, and maybe it was Dennis Dodd or maybe it was some intern, was like, we got to generate some juice this week. So we're leaving Penn State off the top 25 so we can put this graphic out, and then we'll just crank the engagement machine for 72 hours while pissed off Penn State fans get mad at us. And so, like, I get it. I get the way the game is played. Yeah. And it gives us something to talk about. But, I mean, it is nuts, right? Like, it is basically saying, like, destroying Auburn in Jordan-Hare is worse than losing to App State at home.
Correct.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know what that was all about other than, giving us all some hashtag content.
Well, I'm more and more convinced there shouldn't be preseason rankings. They're really, I mean, it's stupid. We've been talking about this for the last 3 years we've been on the air here.
Well, and they especially, it doesn't matter at all now because the playoff selection committee makes the only rankings that matter. And what I think is funny is I always talk about the 2 SEC teams I call the rankings Rosetta Stone programs. It's Auburn and Texas A&M. Because every year, at least one, sometimes both of those programs are overranked in the preseason. And then the consequence of them losing early to some team lasts into late October or early November, because it's like Texas A&M will be in the top 10. Then some other SEC team will beat them early on, and they'll be like, oh my God, these guys beat Texas A&M. They beat number 6 Texas A&M. So then they hop up, and later that team gets beat. And they're like ranked 11th or 12th because they beat fake number 6 Texas A&M. And it's like, oh my God, they beat number 12 Mississippi State. Like, this team must be
preseason
really
rankings are made for people like us to talk about, and Dennis Dodd to talk about all the time and get coaches fired.
And the only time preseason.
Well, he took a preseason.
Well, it can also help coaches get better jobs. Like Appalachian State, I think, which, by the way, you talk about storylines throughout the year, and Penn State may become one of the great stories in college football this year.
Yep.
But how about, and I don't know what the rest of the season is going to bring, but is there any fan base that's been treated, and I know that they lost, I mean, I get it, that opener, but is there any fan base that's been treated to more thrilling football through the first 3 weeks of the season than Appalachian State? They lost to North Carolina in that opener.
Yeah, what was it, they scored 40 points in the fourth quarter.
Right, and they lost, what was it, 63-62 or whatever it was. Yeah. It was they're both teams in the 60s. And then you get the huge win over Texas A&M on the road, and then ESPN, phenomenal that ESPN's College Game Day goes to Boone, North Carolina, which is where Appalachian State is.
Yep.
And it's a great feel-good story. And then it's like, oh, my gosh, they just couldn't handle it. They're going to lose this game to a good Troy team. I mean, it's not like an embarrassing loss or anything. Good. Yeah. But, and then, they pull out the Hail Mary.
Did you see the video of the Troy sorority?
And it is phenomenal.
It is absolutely It's fantastic. There's 25 girls sitting there screaming.
That's at Troy?
That's at Troy. That's a Troy sorority yelling and screaming when the ball goes up because they tap the ball and they're like, ah! And they all just stop and like 3 of them fall back, like fall down, like, oh my God, did that just happen? And the guy runs it in.
So I think actually this may ultimately end up to create a huge problem for App State, because in the very near future, they are going to have trouble funding their athletic department because no FBS
Nobody's going to want to play them.
School is going to schedule them. I mean, you think about in the lens of hindsight, Penn State escaping in 2018, that home opener that had to go to overtime, Penn State making it out of that just looks better and better and better and better the more scalps App State collects. And my first impression walking out of that stadium was, God, that was a great game to be at. And the second was, do not ever schedule these guys ever again.
Yes.
But take your check and get the hell out of here.
Marshall style versus Notre Dame.
Yes.
1.25. Thank you. And we'll take the W. Beautiful.
You know, talking about that Marshall game, I have been thinking about the staff that James Franklin has assembled that he has right now, which I think we are now starting to see the results of on the field. I love what Taylor Stubblefield has done with the receiving core, and I think Anthony Poindexter has done an absolutely marvelous job with the safeties.
By the way, the receiving core did step up. That was stating the obvious, but that was definitively their best game of the season as a group on Saturday. Maybe not as many different guys catching the ball, but they caught the ball.
Yeah, make it and run
very
block it
consistently. Too. Yes. And so, anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
So I think I really love what Manny Diaz is doing so far. I think we're starting to see the benefit of consistency on offense, same system, same coach for the first time in Clifford's career as a starter, and all of these guys. We were talking on the Players Show last night about the benefit to the tight ends
and our tight ends. They played their asses off this week.
James also talked about that in his press conference today, and I was thinking this is, in my opinion, top to bottom, the best staff James has assembled at Penn State.
Agreed.
I think
he's had some good staffs.
And if you go back to the staff he came in with, they all stayed intact through 2016 when he brought in Joe Moorhead as the offensive coordinator. So this is the best staff since 2016. If you think about that group he brought with him from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So Terry Smith is still here. Now he wasn't at Vanderbilt, but the staff he hired.
Right.
A lot of the Vanderbilt carryovers, the guys on his staff, Ricky Ronnie was a position coach, now a head coach. Charles Huff was a position coach, now a head coach. You bringing up Marshall made me think about it.
Huff,
Brent Pry,
Spence.
Sean Spencer. That was a really rich. Josh Gaddis.
Gaddis is the other one. I saw him actually projected top 5 for Nebraska.
I think he will be in the mix for Nebraska and Arizona State now, probably.
Ironhead.
Yeah.
If we had only known what in the hell was going on out there. You reading some of these reports about Frost? Holy crap, man.
Yeah.
Like we're sitting there,
money, right? Stealing money from his alma mater.
I saw a report where he was showing up half-cocked to practices late, and the other one was that the golf team lodged a complaint to the athletic department that he was taking over the golf simulators all the time and not doing his job. And
what was he making, like $6.5–7 million a year? Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting there saying how great of a job he was doing, and wow, I just don't know what's going on there. But I would have never thought that he was like that or like that. I mean, about that. I mean, that's just that's dereliction of duty, in my opinion. I mean, he's not making the other coaches are like. He's not making recruiting calls, and the other coach coming on, Monday, the guy who took over right now,
Mickey Joseph,
he fired the DC right after the game.
Oh, I didn't realize
he got rid of them. He took the black shirts off the guys before the game, the Thursday before, and said, "You'll get it back maybe if you deserve them and this and that."
Yeah,
fired the DC late, not like Herm walking off the field, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that, right? Did you?
I did.
I mean, we talk about guys getting fired on the tarmac and this and that, like, Lane Kiffin being told, find your own way back to L.A. type of thing. But to do it on the field,
that's cold.
Pretty tough.
That is cold.
Yeah,
your final statement to the players is, hey, good game today. Sorry, I didn't, hey, you're out. Bye.
Yeah.
crazy, man. What a world. But the whole Frost thing, I mean, I know, it's been a little near and dear to you and me for 2 years here, Jeff.
But it does explain what was happening.
What the hell's going on there.
How do you go from, and he just either got caught up and
well, I mean, they are a
or
scary
decided
team.
that, listen, I'm going to live the good life.
A scary program like they once were. They could very easily get back to that if they have the right people in charge. And I don't know if that's true now. You might be right. I mean, there's definitely the support there, and but I just think it is. It's certainly not impossible. I mean, we've seen lesser programs with much lesser tradition, elevate quickly, but I just think I think it is going to be a tall mountain to climb right now, just because of. I mean, Minnesota has it going right now. I'm not saying they're going to be in the college football playoffs anytime soon, but I'm not promising that they're not either. I mean, they are getting some big time talent in there now, and they have it rolling. Is the bottom line. Iowa is Iowa. More years than not, they're going to win more games than not. Wisconsin, might be having a down year. We'll see how it all plays out this year, but. Again, you kind of know what you're getting year in and year out there, and it's a very consistent program. And again, that's just talking about the West. I'm just talking about trying to get not the 20-1
to the
Big Ten East,
and and Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern knows what it is. Fitzgerald knows what he's doing with that program, and so it's.
They're happy with it.
Even with the right coach. I think it is going to be still a tall order right now in Nebraska, because you've got to open up the national recruiting, which they have not been successful at anyway for a very long time now.
The Big Ten screwed up their whole.
And I'm just saying, I mean, there will be kids that, I want to bring Nebraska back, but if you don't have any kind of allegiance to Nebraska, I'm just not sure when you look at the other coaches that are going to be able to sit down. I'm talking again, just in the Big Ten West. Even with a dynamic, great coach, whoever we think is Urban Meyer. I mean, if they get what some of the Nebraska fans are asking for, or whoever, if you think if Nick Saban went there, I still think it's a tall order right now to get Nebraska to be consistently contending for Big Ten West honors.
One thing I did tell my wife on Saturday, we were watching the game. I said, "Look at them; they're in complete disarray. They just fired their coach. Look at that stadium." And she goes, "My God, it was full."
Yeah, there's a passion. There's no
that's
question.
What's good. That is what their potential saving grace
Correct.
is. I think if I were going to map out a recovery plan for Nebraska football, I would say go out, get a proven builder coach like Lance Leipold. I think that's who they should be targeting.
Where's he at?
He was the Buffalo coach. He went to Kansas and has Kansas at 3-0.
Yeah, how about that?
I think. I mean, look, the Cinderella story is going to end there at some point. But Kansas football has been an absolute drag for basically a decade.
For the first time in 13 seasons, a home favorite.
Yeah, well, there you go.
13 years.
And so the fact that he has that group of kids 13 years. There's not a ton of talent there. Go back and look at their last several recruiting classes. I get it, the transfer portal and everything. There's not a ton of talent there. He got the most he could out of some Buffalo rosters when he was up there. He seems to be getting the most out of Kansas's roster. You need a guy who has shown the ability to get more from less. And then the recipe begins with that. And then I think you just got to use NIL. You got to rely on the fact that there are.
Well, we've talked about this on our show, and that is that Nebraska does not have
big dollar donors, and
nobody's
worried
doesn't
about
have professional sport. There's no they have no competition. Do you know what their competition is? Women's volleyball.
Yeah.
I mean, Nebraska football is it in the state of Nebraska. So they have the ability to get that done. And it's a powder keg, in my opinion. But to go back to, I'm just absolutely amazed. And I would have lost a lot of money if somebody had said, well, it was Frost that was the idiot, not, than anybody else. But, geez, Louise. I mean,
and that the thing that kills you about that is you think, he was a hero there.
No doubt about it.
He can never go home again.
He's a freaking pariah.
Yeah.
Where did he start his career? He was he was transferred in.
Oh, I don't know that.
Stanford.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yep, he was there for a year at Stanford, and then he went out there when Tommy Frazier and the guy who died. The quarterback who died.
Oh my Lord!
Brooks Berringer.
Yes,
Brooks Berringer died for the '94 season, I believe it was. He won the national title for him because Frazier had those blood clots.
Correct.
I recall.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'll say it all. It's disappointing to hear that, but to go back, what I just whispered in Booch's ear, Ironhead. The Big Ten East is 20-1 right now. Who has the loss? Maryland.
Michigan State.
Oh, Sparty, that's right. They got whooped by Washington.
They sure did.
Yes, they did. There's $9 million down the drain a year.
I don't know about that. The one thing I will give I was thinking in the first half of that game, I thought, man, when they gave
it's a commitment they made to Mel Tucker.
When they gave Tucker that contract.
It's a huge commitment, and they're saying he's here for good.
It was you saw the same thing here at Penn State.
Exactly. It's the exact same
You
thing.
guys better come out of the gate hot, or your fans are going to be angry right away. And I'm watching the first half of that game, and I thought, oh, my Lord. The RIP, the Michigan State message boards, on Sunday morning. But then the one thing I will give Sparty, because they didn't play well, but they didn't give up. That team kept fighting, and clearly, they just didn't have it defensively.
Yep.
But if they could have made one or two more plays on defense, they could have had that as a competitive game in the fourth quarter. And at one point, it looked like they were just going to get run off the field. They were down 24-3 or 21-0. They're getting walloped.
Halftime was brutal. It was like Jesus. But you're right; they didn't quit.
That's the thing too. We're 3 weeks in, and it's fun. And even in the NFL, there's things that you think right now,
we already know
and it'd be fun to just jot these things that we think we know down now, and then see what happens.
I told you guys last week, Ironhead. Buffalo Bills, Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, they just had a clip that Bengals are the most disappointing team in the NFL. And listen, I wouldn't argue that the defending AFC champions being 0-2, but they are and they are 2 plays away from being 2-0. It's not like, and the offensive line is Penn State the last 2 seasons and Auburn this season-esque. That is bad
paying a lot of money and not
line.
getting anything out of it. They bought a lot of players.
Yeah, that O-line does not look any better, at least through the first 2 games.
But don't you think that goes back to what we say when there's no live offseason? Because me and Brandon were talking about it with Aeneas and the other guys last night. There's no live work in camp for these NFL guys.
Yeah.
The last time Lael Collins had played live before the Steelers game, which he gave up 3 sacks last week, he's just not having a great year. The right tackle for the Bengals. He was the guy from the Cowboys, but the last time he had played a live play was for the Cowboys last year. There's no live work in the summertime, no live work in camp. This is what happens. You have horrible offensive line play, and we're going to see if it improves. Otherwise, there's no way Joe Burrows is going to make this freaking season getting hit and beat up like that. He's not Ben Roethlisberger big.
Now the good news is he doesn't have to face Micah Parsons again, because if he had to play him even one more time this year, I'm not sure. It has been a while. I'm trying to think. Since one player just took over a game like that defensively.
LT.
Yeah,
at that young of an age.
But he basically. I'm overstating it slightly, but I think only slightly. Micah Parsons basically won that game for Dallas, single-handedly. And Cooper Rush is a great story. And that's cool and all of that if you're a Cowboys fan. But
I didn't look it up the other day. Where's he from?
My God.
I'll look it up now.
What Parsons did, I don't know.
I'd never heard. I got to admit, I'd never heard of him. I didn't know who he was.
That was Red Zone, so I didn't see the advertising of where he's from and all that. But
the team. But the Bengals. So the Bengals. I think could still go either way. They could certainly be a playoff team, or they could end up being a team that this does spiral out of control.
Correct.
Because I do think the Ravens, and I know they let one slip away, and I still think the Steelers. I still think it's the Ravens and the Bengals, as much as I'm hoping that the Steelers catch fire. At the end of the day, I still think this is the Ravens and the Bengals, and then you have the Steelers and the Browns, and that's the way that division is
some of those
setting
endings
up.
on Sunday were just insane.
Well, for the first 2 weeks, I mean,
Baltimore,
and that's
what in the hell? Cleveland, what in the hell? Like,
well,
whoa.
the Colts. I mean, there were
24.
people projecting the Colts to be a Super Bowl team this year. I read it a couple of different places, and
very upset with that.
a lot of people thought the Colts were going to be very
As a Colts
good.
alumnus, very upset with
but
that, Chris.
Man,
Donkey Doug, don't mess with him. By the way, a little bit of a very, very slight Penn State connection because Cooper Rush's alma mater is this week's opponent for the Nittany Lions.
Is that right?
Chip, Central Michigan Chippewas.
There you go.
Chip.
I'll tell you what. Now that
I like directional Michigan.
Now that I put 2 and 2 together there, I do remember Central Michigan has had a pretty explosive offense the last few years. I mean, they've put up numbers.
Yeah.
Again, by max standards, but again, if you're good, the league will find you. That's what they say.
Yep, no question about it.
Where's Fleck from? He's Western Michigan.
He coached Western Michigan prior to coming to
Central
Minnesota.
Michigan. They've had some good. Joe Staley. They've had some players come out of Central Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really have had some legit players come out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hell, isn't that where J.J. Watt and Antonio Brown started their careers?
Antonio Brown for sure. I didn't
That's
know
where
that
J.J.
about
Watt.
J.J.
He
Watt.
transferred to Wisconsin. Yeah, they had him at tight end for a year. He was a tight end with Chip, and then he was a tight end with Wisconsin. Then he moved to the defensive end.
He'd be the most recent guy I could think of who could take over a game the way Parsons did against Cincinnati.
Well, I don't know. His little brother's doing a pretty good damn chance.
TJ has had a couple of games where he basically has, but he's also, I don't know. It felt like, again, I realize I'm overstating, but I mean, Mike, you take Mike off the field, and truthfully, I do think, and listen, it's an offensive problem with the Steelers, I understand, but I also still think if TJ Watt's out there this past Sunday, that the Steelers are 2-0 right now, not 1-1, and I have nothing to back that up than my firm belief.
That was actually an ugly game.
It was a brutal game. I actually didn't have to watch any of it. I listened to the whole thing. I was I had to listen, but it was not any better listening to it.
I'm a Red Zoner.
I can tell you that.
You don't get if it's a crappy game, you're not getting many clips of it, and I didn't get many clips of it. When we did, it was just like, whoa.
No, it was horrible. And that play at the end of is obviously ends up being the play of the game. Their big touchdown pass, which is borderline inexplicable, but it happened. Meanwhile, your Eagles did look very good last night.
They weren't bad. And
the Bills looked very good last night.
Boy, the Bills looked really good, did they not?
Yeah, they just I mean, if they can stay healthy, which is always the big if with any team, but and that's actually where I wanted to go with Penn State. I'll come back to that, but I don't think there's a weakness on this Bills team, and that is really rare in today's NFL. Even your Super Bowl teams, usually it's like, well, no, they are great and they're the best team, but man, you can exploit, the secondary or their linebacking core.
Run at that guy when he's in the game. Run at him. They don't have that.
I just, that Bills team just both. The offensive and the defensive line, their linebacking core is terrific. Their secondary is outstanding.
Receivers are dynamic, and the running backs
they've got to find a quarterback. But if they can find a quarterback, this could be a really, really good team.
Buffalo fans finally bought in on him because there were some at some point. They were like, I don't know. We don't know.
Well, the thing that's been neat to see, just as somebody that likes to see players that evolve, right? He came in very much a Worley. He was not the sure thing coming in to the NFL, right?
Watching the bowl
Wyoming
game,
and
John Elway was on the sidelines,
but he had accuracy issues. Not just Wyoming, but he was inaccurate at Wyoming, against defenses that Wyoming plays. There were accuracy issues, and that was And this is a guy that. Opposite of Scott Frost, went all in on I will do whatever it takes to make myself better. Basically did the Tiger Woods. I'm going to redo my shot entirely so that I can get to the next level. And that is a guy that I just think it's a wonderful story just because it is truly. I mean, he obviously has talent, but I mean, it is his work ethic that allowed him to get to where he is.
Who do you compare him to? I just said his name. I just see John Elway out there because he's a huge dude, like a Roethlisberger type guy who can take a freaking hit. He can run like Elway, though. Elway can run back in his day.
But Elway was Allen's a better runner. I mean, he's faster and but as far as that's not a bad.
When are our defensive players going to learn to stop hitting quarterbacks? Like, just stop. What? I mean, Max Crosby got one the other day, and they actually waved it off, but it was like one of those, he was going down. It's like, dude, there's no reason to even attempt to do that.
I said when Sean got his bell rung early on in the Auburn game, if this was the NFL, 100% that's a flag.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think people were saying, he led with his helmet. I said, no, he didn't.
No, it was a
face
clean
mask hit him right here.
It was a clean hit.
He didn't lead up. And I still say Abdul got kicked out of that game against Purdue because he bought the arm up. That's what it was. He lowered his head and bought his arm up.
Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, like you said about going down. Like, at that point, you're a ball carrier. You're a running back.
Especially in the college, that's very true. But in the NFL, I mean, those quarterbacks, you know how they are. And then we're watching a highlight of Kyler Murray up there. You imagine? That's Fran Tarkenton Jr. up there. He ran around for 22 seconds one play.
It was wild on the conversion.
85 yards he ran.
For Penn State, I mean, no question going into the first three games, the biggest question mark was the offensive line. What is the biggest area of concern? Is that still the biggest area of concern despite what we've seen to this point as you move forward? Or because I'm starting to think this is the linebacking core is fast. Whether or not I still wonder, like against a Michigan, a power game that has an offensive line that can fire off consistently. Can you hold up for 4 quarters? Right now, I'm thinking yes, because I think there's depth, and again, I think you can do some different things with the personnel that you have. You can bring in an extra big guy up front too, if that's what you think the answer is to stop that particular element of an opponent's game. So, I've actually been pleasantly surprised, certainly with the offensive line, but with the linebacking core and with the depth that I think it's starting to develop as well. Obviously, the secondary is playing up to its preseason billing. And I think Sean Clifford, again, I would still like to just get to where we're mistake-free, relatively speaking, big mistake-free.
Still seems to have that one
and
a game.
Yeah,
and he'll get. I think somebody said, Franklin said, he'll get better with that. It's like, dude, it's year 7, okay?
But the tight ends, both the blocking and the yards after catch with the receptions have been good. I mean, there's not a glaring area, to this point, and you certainly don't expect an area to be exposed over the next 2 weeks. So the nice thing is, if the coaching staff is sitting there saying, oh no, we have this glaring area, you've got a month, right? I mean, and they're not telling the team that. I mean, I understand, and I'm not taking Northwestern for granted. All of that, they can't. But you have a month to get everything in as high working order as you can, and then let's see what happens.
What I'm noticing is the biggest difference in our guys is they're coming off the ball. Okay, they're not the running backs are hitting them like I've talked about, that they're hitting the holes a lot faster. But what we're doing different this year, I swear to God, it has to be. I'm trying to think what the difference is, and I think we're blocking better in space. Does that sound like our guys pulling are actually getting to linebackers and getting the safeties and getting the corners, kicking guys out, and they're running the combination blocks, and our running backs are hitting the hole without having to make that first initial move.
If you go back and you look at last year's run game, which was putrid.
It was very tentative. We sat, accepted it, and took the person where they wanted to go.
And we're
coming off the ball, it seems, this year.
It was systemic failure too. Every component of what you need to have a good run game, everybody was just a half step slow. They didn't quite finish up. Your O-linemen, your tight ends, your running backs, it was no one position groups or no one player's fault. The problem is everyone who was involved.
And you had a bad passing game, so they could sit on the run, and they were saying, throw on us.
I think that's the cart before the horse. I think the passing game suffered because the defense knew they didn't have to honor the run.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. So, it fed into itself. So last year, you had everybody involved just being, 85 to 90% of where they needed to be. And now it's the same. And now it's different. Now everyone is going the extra mile right now. Your tailbacks have a little bit more speed, a little bit better vision, a little more explosive. You're finishing blocks on the offensive line. Brenton Strange still has a lot of room to grow as a run blocker. And the way the tight end position is now, like, don't tell McDaniel down in Miami, but you ain't gonna get Brett Jones anymore, right? Like you're Mike Ditka, who can run block like an MFer and also go out for passes. Like, those guys are 1 in 1,000, and they all go to Iowa.
Brent Shellick was one of those last ones.
Yeah, right. So I don't know how much you can realistically expect Brenton to grow into like a real road grader type blocker, but he is night and day from last season to this season.
He's so much
with a lot of
physically bigger than Freiermuth and Jazicki, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So he should have the ability to just knock the crap out of somebody playing defensive end or getting to the next level to linebacker or safety. That's where I think that pressure is coming from with him. But I mean, he has actually improved his blocking very, very significantly this year.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just think I think the timing just overall with that offense is obviously much better than it was over the last
this week,
last 2 years.
It next week.
And that's the thing. I think from the as fans and media members, we can take these next 2 games for granted, but these are a couple of critical weeks of development to me, because you've got to build on, again, it has been a terrific start, right? I mean, it's everything you could have hoped for as a fan going into this season, to be 3-0 and to be looking, coming off your best game and having a little bit of the favorite word swagger back in the program. But these next 2 weeks are critical in continuing to develop that good feeling. And, also I think, now you want to start adding some wrinkles, and not that you're going to want to show everything, obviously, over the next 2 weeks in these next 2 games, but you want to start diversifying. I would like to see, personally, just some more pitches, get these guys outside and let them start to develop that element. And I'm okay if they're doing that in practice and we don't see it the next 2 games, and the first time we see it is Michigan. I'm fine with that. But I would like to see that component to the game, and or the swing passes to the running backs to, again, try to get them in a little bit of space, because Singleton doesn't need more than a little bit of space to make some things happen.
Although if you were going to ask me, just especially after the way last season went, would you rather have maybe a little bit better results getting your backs out to the edge with those types of plays to get the running backs more confident? Or would you first like to say, hey, let's show we can do it hat on hat to get the confidence up on the O-line? Like, no doubt. The fact that we are – and, you brought it a couple of weeks ago, Ironhead, after the Purdue game. You said, I want to see some different formations. I want to see them let Nick Singleton get some, get some on-ramp into his runs. You're starting to see that more. And I think you're seeing his blockers get more confident. They're like, hey, we can do this. We can execute these plays.
Yeah. The other thing, I want to go to the other side of the ball just real quick, because we talk about the offense keeping the defense off balance. And, again, Auburn has problems on that offensive line. There's no question about it. But the thing I'm loving most about Manny Diaz, we were expecting a more aggressive defense, and we were expecting, I was expecting big things out of the defense, and the way they would be able to execute. But I am telling you, they keep offenses completely off balance with
I love it.
They are dialing up
everywhere, man.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times they're dropping. I mean, some of their most effective defensive plays on Saturday came with 3 guys rushing, and they still were getting pressure on the quarterback. 1, which was fantastic, but 2, the quarterback is like, wait, I thought I was having 5 or 6 guys coming at me. Nobody's coming at me. this is great, except I have nowhere to throw because that
Sam
secondary
Darnold say?
is in of itself going to lock things down. Yeah, and I think game planning right now for Penn State would be difficult for anybody, Michigan and Ohio State included, on both sides of the ball.
These
because
next 2 weeks, I
don't think, and there's not tendencies. It's not like, okay, well, first down, Penn State's just going to rush the 3, and they're bringing blitzes on 3rd and long. They're dropping people back on 3rd and long,
corners, safeties, linebackers.
So you don't know, like. It's not, okay, this is just a blitz crazy team and we got to be ready for. No, sometimes it's not. And I think, again, we're 3 games in. I want to see how the rest of the season plays out. But I will say through 3 games, this thing has developed better than I would have even drawn it up in terms of, the way both sides of the ball are playing and the way they're keeping the other team guessing and the options that they have available. Again, I think that there is a complete playbook that is legitimately available to that offense right now. And as I said earlier, I think that defense can match up with anybody and at least give itself a chance going into the game. And the special teams, again, is also I think going to be that can win a game somewhere down the road for this team with the way they can play the field position battle as well. Just don't do a 4th and short, go for it at midfield.
I mean, I'm telling you, the next 2 weeks, I would have a bevy of reverses and flea flickers and slip screens, wide receiver screens, just to. I mean, hopefully we're not having to worry about beating both of these teams, where we can go out there and just put stuff on the field. On film, where Michigan is going to have to look at it and go, okay, we got to prepare for that. We got to prepare. If you got to have more on there to prepare for, keep doing it, man. Or they just go very, very vanilla the next 2 weeks and show nothing. Who knows? I mean,
yeah.
I got to say that it seems that James has learned from a lot of his mistakes and a lot of his shortcomings in the last few years. I really have to say that right now.
Yep.
And his dancing is still not improved.
But hopefully he has plenty more opportunities to work on.
No doubt about it.
Throughout this season.
Celebrate Saturdays. That's what you win. You whatever the hell you want, man.
Hey, real quickly too, before we wrap it up, congratulations to the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club and USA Wrestling.
What happened?
Phenomenal World Championships.
Yes, it was.
And Kyle Dake is coming to the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. He announced that officially now. So that club just gets stronger, which means that room just gets stronger. But David Taylor, wins the gold, 3rd. Well, 2-time world champion and Olympic champion now, and David Taylor.
He's
Kyle Snyder,
7-1 against
gold.
The guy from Iran.
4-1 against Yazdani. He's. I mean, and Yazdani just had no answers for him this time around. That's the only time, and not that I've watched all of Yazdani's matches over his career, but I've watched a good bit of his matches over the last couple of years, and his eyes told you the story that final minute. I mean, he knew he had absolutely no answers for what Taylor was bringing, and I've been saying it for the last couple of years, but I think David Taylor right now, pound for pound, is as good, if not better, than anyone in the world. He is just on top of his game. Obviously, Kyle Dake would have be able to make an argument there as well. But boy, Team USA and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club in particular, again, Taylor and Snyder win gold, Gilman and Rutherford with silver. That's just very heady stuff and a lot of fun to watch.
And the fact that they can be in the same wrestling room as college guys, it just it just blows my mind. It's absolutely freaking awesome.
Yeah, and
think about that.
Going out and practicing with Saquon.
I was just going to say that would be like
thing.
If you were getting recruited to play football at Penn State and Saquon
go to
Barkley and
and
Micah Parsons were here every
day.
day.
Hey, Micah's hey, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go one-on-one. Let me see what you got out here.
Fun stuff.
Amazing.
All right, that's going to wrap up our show for today. We'll break down. Goon will give us the complete scouting report on Central Michigan. Break it down position by position.
Run the ball, no turnovers, no sacks, 250 yards rushing.
That'll work.
13 sacks, given up.
Get it done. We will talk to you on Thursday.
Buddy.
Until then, be good and be safe.
Go Birds!
Go Birds.
Make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny